Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
It's my friend is a science.
I still don't have gills, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, glad to have you here. Oh look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. There, I got my camera ready. Okay, here we go. How are you this morning? I hope you are doing well. We had a great time last night. James, I know, was asking about why it's the last. I was thinking that might be the last kind of scheduled plugged in where I was playing video games. I played back Xanadu last night for the NES. So, I'm kind of shuffling from an administrative standpoint, a bunch of things around. Let me turn this off. And that show may become deprecated. It may be the case that I've kind of played what I wanted to play anyway. Like sometimes we may play a game on the morning grind sometime. Like we still need to finish Guardian Legend. I still want to play the old computer game Dragon Lord, but I got to find a way to play it because it's not like on an NES emulator. It was the one that was the game that first made me love being an alchemist. But also as we try to consolidate things, we might not need that activity might have to go. We will see, though. But it was so much fun. Yesterday we played back Xanadu. I beat it twice. That is a classic retro game. I think it's my favorite NES game. It's my favorite NES game. I beat it twice last night. The first time I had some save points that I said allowed me to skip over farming gold when I needed to buy something. So it took me 2 hours to beat it when I didn't have to farm gold. I was able to just, go to the next save point, which would skip over all the need for farming. But then so I did it that way. And then in about 3 hours, I beat it with the farming. So we did it twice. We did it twice back to back last night. It was awesome. Let's see here. Good morning, Lynn. Good morning, Sable Phoenix. Good morning, Zero the Blade. Wait, the Sable. By the way, the Blades in the Dark book is a little weird and it's designed to be read front to back. I have the quick start guide here. So I'm going to start with the quick start guide. We'll see how that helps us out. But it says, so we'll start there. The Blades in the Dark book is a little weird and it's designed to be read front to back. Oh, well, front to back. Okay, so it's probably the best to start on page 1 and just go up. Yeah, we sometimes... like it's weird. So yeah, sometimes we skip around when we try to figure out how to go. But I've got the quick start guides. I'm going to start there. Oh, thank you for the Discord link. RPG with DBJ says Blades have. Be sure you check out his channel. He's streaming all the time about RPG stuff. Check out DBJ's channel. Blades, and also he's working with Mark Tassin on the cool name RPG. So be sure you're following DBJ. Blades may have the greatest number of portable, stealable mechanisms in tabletop RPG history. Well, and that's one of the reasons why we're looking at it now, because that seems to come up a lot on the channel. And so we're trying to look at what kind of system could potentially be built out for playing some type of game online, particularly through the playingcards.io system. And yesterday we were looking at the bullseye mechanism, or the bullseye kind of target for combat, location exploration, hex crawling, and then downtime. And this one probably has some good features for it. So I'm looking forward to checking this one out. Hello, Dungeon Master. So yesterday, Sable was asking what was the point of the combat? So and I have a little bit better answer right now when we're talking about our design here, because previously when I've been working on Faded Edge, I had been working on a system for more narrative style play, but the playingcards.io system worked so well for running that Hero Quest game. I was taking notes on why that ran so well. And so we did talk about that, I believe the day before or something like that. We were talking about why did that work well, and why, one of the reasons that worked well is because the information that you needed was represented graphically. You didn't have to ask a bunch of questions and things like that. And so it occurred to me, as I was it occurred to me that I could use that kind of design philosophy, perhaps, to run some type of West Marches style game, and just build a game rules that are based around being able to be played in that kind of environment. So you're right to ask what's the purpose of the combat, because you can just say to have fun, but it's not true that fighting things is always fun. I mean, I have that critique of 5e myself quite a bit. That, hey, isn't combat fun for the sake of it? Really, it's not, especially when the combat doesn't influence anything. That, oh, we're doing this encounter right here, but we're going to restore our hit points. We're going to restore our magic points. We hadn't really lost anything, and we won't gain anything either sometimes by combat. So it's not true that combat for the sake of combat is fun. But on the other hand, sometimes that is the point. Like if you're playing Hero Quest, if you ask what's the point of the combat, well, the game is combat. You're going to be going into a dungeon and you're going to be hacking things apart because there are things that are in your way between you and your goal. So I think that would be some of the point there. Okay, let's. Good morning, Robert. Let me go over here. Last night I didn't. The sale on Ravenkeep.net is ending, but last night we spent. I was going to shut all of it down yesterday, but I didn't get to do that because we were playing video games late last night. I was only going to go for a couple of hours so I could reset sleep schedule, but I feel actually pretty good this morning. But we just plowed on. So at the moment, all of the coffee mugs, Enchantress, Terra tiles, all of the dice trays, all of the the 10 millimeter miniatures are here. Oh, Dismounted Imperial Knights sold out. I think that was the dice trays and everything on the site ships for $99 or more free. $99 or more, and it ships free. So at the moment, if you didn't get that yesterday and there was something that you wanted to pick up, box of Enchantress. That's our game of Wizardly Combat. Everybody plays our asymmetric game of Wizardly Combat. My brother and I designed. I think there are 3 boxes remaining. So at the moment, I'll shut this down today, the sale today. But at the moment, it is still live because I was playing video games last night. So please do come over here to Ravenkeep.net if you would like any of those. I'll be happy to send those out to you. Also, let's see. I've got the Game Tavern sign up. If you are interested in playing games electronically, this is the interest form. Online gaming interest form. I could put this in the link. If you are interested in playing some games, including Hero Quest, I was actually working on building out a few other things for online gaming yesterday, and it was taking me a little bit longer than I thought. But I'm going to work on that. Basically, as soon as I finish this stream, I'm going to go over to do a few other things, getting the online play ready, and then I'm going to put together a schedule. So let's do Hero Quest first because it's ready and can be played. So if you don't get to play Hero Quest, or you've never played Hero Quest and you want to, we've got a way to play it online. It worked extremely well. And so what I'm thinking about doing is putting together, organizing a bunch of Hero Quest games to let people play through the original quest pack, the quest pack. And so if you would like, if you're interested, please click that link and sign up. And then that way you will know when the schedule goes live. I need to also put that out on Discord. There are a few other places I need to put this link. But I'm thinking about putting together a schedule early this afternoon. So gaming could start soon. If you want to be a part of it, click that link and sign up. That's important. Sable says, in 5e, the only raw way to gain XP is combat, which is why it's such a heavily focused combat sim. So ultimately, that's the point of 5e combat. XP gain in order to get to your higher levels. Your character is a treadmill. It doesn't do so well for more inventive gameplay and storytelling, though. I constantly feel like the party and the GM are just fighting the system in order to make interesting things happen. Good morning, BGD. That's also why the OSR gained so much popularity. It returns D&D back to the old style of game where it was not so heavily combat focused. XP was treasure, and combat was often fatal. The getting and accumulating treasure, I want to be a part of this as well. Okay, so we will continue to think about that, and we will see what parts of Blades in the Dark here we can bring over. So I know Sable has played Blades in the Dark, or is a fan of it. At least I assume played it. Who has played Blades in the Dark? So I have the quick start guide right here. So maybe this will help us get into it and figure out what is so great and wonderful here. Let's see. Hide the sidebar. Okay, there we go. So this is the Blades in the Dark quick start kit. How to use this quick start guide. Read the whole document. Print all reference and character sheets. Brief the group on what Blades in the Dark is all about using the overview on the next page. Give a summary of the situation the characters will find themselves in for the quick start scenario. Create the player characters and crew using the instructions on 29 and 36. How to use the system 16 through 18. What we will need: 7 6-sided dice, printed character crew and reference sheet, pencils and erasers, index cards and marker, printed dust wall map, and crow's foot map. Okay, overview. What is this? All the coin in the Empire is cold comfort when blades come for you in the dark. Some people like to get a big picture overview of a game, its premise, setting, characters, etc. before diving into the details. We often like that here. Okay, so summary. You play scoundrels on the streets of Duskwall, an industrial fantasy city. There's a primitive electric technology, the printing press, strange alchemy, and gunpowder weapons. You and the other players create a fledgling criminal enterprise, your crew, and then take on illicit jobs to improve your assets and status. Gameplay focuses on the moments of daring action during a job, with occasional flashbacks to planning sessions to improve teamwork. Yeah, so I know this one. So this game is not played chronologically, right? Because there can be flashbacks, which I understand is a innovative part of this game as well. So if you realize you need to plan something rather than planning in advance, you can plan after the fact through the use of flashbacks, right? Let's see. Touchstones. If you're pitching the game to potential players, here's some media touchstones you can use to relate the game to stuff which they're already familiar. The video game Dishonored, the Vlad Taltos series of novels, stories of Fafard and the Grey Mouser, The Lies of Lacta Lamora. I don't know any of these. The video game Thief, The Dark Project, and the TV show The Wire. Theme song Furnace Room Lullaby by Neko Case. Okay, Blades in the Dark is a game about a group of daring scoundrels building a criminal enterprise in the haunted streets of an industrial fantasy city. Their heists, chases, escapes, dangerous bargains, bloody skirmishes, deceptions, betrayals, victories, and deaths. We play to find out if a fledgling crew can thrive amongst the teeming threats of rival gangs. Powerful noble families, vengeful ghosts, and blue coats of the city watch, and the siren song of the scoundrels' own vices. Oh, Sable says, every time I've tried to start up a Blades in the Dark game, it's fallen through. Doesn't mean I love the system any less, though. It's so elegant. All right, so the setting. It's the year 847 of the Imperium, which united the shattered lands of the Cataclysm under one rule. All glory to His Majesty, the Immortal Emperor. The unquiet spirits of the dead roam to free the world once the gates of death were shattered in the Cataclysm. Prey on every living thing in the blasted deadlands between cities. The port of Duskwall, like every city stronghold of the Imperium, is encircled by crackling lightning towers which create an electrical barrier that spirits cannot pass. By law, all corpses are incinerated with electroplasm to destroy the spirit essence within. However, wealthy citizens, heretics of the spirit cults, and criminal elements often arrange a spirit to escape destruction. There, it's probably easier to read. However, wealthy citizens, heretics, and the spirit cults and the criminal element often arrange for a spirit to escape destruction at the crematorium. Rogue spirits and the illegal spirit essences derived from them are rich trade for the black market. The docks of Duskwall, on the cold, windswept northern tip of Akaros, are home port for the titanic iron steamships of Leviathan hunters. The blood of these massive demons is the catalyst which gives potency to the plasmatic oils within the city. The noble elite make their fortune from the fleets of Leviathan hunters they deploy on the ink-dark waters of the Never Sea. Okay, the scoundrels attempt to develop their crew from a ragtag group of poor independent to a serious mid-level criminal organization with established turf. They do this by taking illegal jobs from clients, planning their own devious missions, making alliances, destroying their enemies, and trying to stay one step ahead of the law. So are you trying to do things like, I don't know, potentially get a spirit out of the crematorium. So you're like planning a heist, perhaps hired by some heretics or wealthy citizens to go and get a spirit out of a crematorium. Sounds like something you could be doing. The players create a scoundrel character and works with the other players to create a crew which their characters belong. Each player strives to bring their PC to life as an interesting, daring, conflicted fantasy adventurer character who reaches boldly beyond their current safety and means. The players decide as a group on the tone and style of the game by making judgment calls about the dice and actions along with oversight from the GM. The Game Master establishes the dynamic world around the characters, especially the law-abiding civilian world of the shadowy criminal organization. The GM plays all the non-player characters. All right. They present opportunities for the PCs and so forth. All right. The situation. This page describes the situation for the quick start. Give the players this overview before going on to character and crew creation. See page 25 for more details. Sable says, yes, that would definitely be a valid heist. Okay, your crew of thieves is caught up in a perilous and possibly profitable situation in the Crow's Foot district. Rorik, the ward boss who ran the criminal operations in Crow's Foot, has been killed. People say it was his second-in-command, Lysa, who did it. She now controls Rorik's impressive gang of cutthroats who call themselves the Crows. Can she establish dominance over the district the way Rorik did? When Rorik died, the peace he had brokered between two enemy gangs fell apart. The Lamp Blacks and the Red Sashes have once again exploded into open war on the streets. Will their old feud finally be resolved with bloodshed? Your crew of thieves is poised to profit from all of this or be swept up in the chaos and destroyed. Who will you side with? Do you have loyalties and friendships in the mix, or will you detach outsiders coldly exploiting the situation? We'll play to find out. See starting the game on page 25. Okay, so the Crows. Turf claims all of Crow's Foot as their turf. Everyone in the district pays up the chain to them. HQ is in an abandoned city watchtower. Operates many gambling rooms across the district. Lysa is the leader, cold, calculating killer. Notable assets: a veteran gang of thugs and killers, a number of small boats, a fortified HQ. Allies: the Bluecoats, sailors, the Lost. Enemies: the Hive, inspectors, dockers. Situation: Lysa murdered the former boss of the Crows, Rorik. Oh, she killed him. She is a fearsome killer, and few want to cross her, but her hold as the new leader of the Crows is uncertain. Some were loyal to Rorik. As the power play continues, the Crows' hold on the district might just slip away. So this is, I guess this is their goal. I guess I'm going to need to zoom out so I understand what's going on here. Okay, so reestablish control of the district is like, I guess, the goal of the Crows. The Lamp Blacks destroy the Red Sashes. The Red Sashes destroy the Lamp Blacks. The Lamp Blacks are a former lamplighter guild turned to crime when their services were replaced by electric lights. And the Red Sashes were originally an Aruvium school of swordsmanship expanded into criminal endeavors. Okay. Even the setting. So Dunwall equals Duskwall, and Whales equal Leviathans. Oh, talking about reference to the inspirational literature here. So the goal of the game is to advance your crew up the faction ladder to tier 3 or beyond. Your crew starts at tier 0 with 0 hold. Hold represents how strongly a faction can maintain their position at the current tier. The more hold you have, the harder it is for you to lose your position. So your crew, you're trying to get to tier 3 or beyond. Your crew begins at tier 0 with 0 hold. Hold is how strongly a faction can maintain their position on a current tier. Advancement. To advance up one tier, you must have at least 3 hold on your current tier, and then do one of the following. Achieve +3 faction status with a faction 1 or 2 tiers above you. Then successfully perform the next mission they request. Take advantage of a faction 1 or 2 tiers above you when they are reduced to 0 hold. Successfully perform a mission to seize their position in that tier. They drop down 1 tier and reset to 1 hold. Whenever you change tiers, your hold resets to 1. Faction tier level determines the scale of that faction's gangs. Tier 3 is top, huge gangs, 40 people. Tier 3 is middle, large gangs, 20 people. Tier 1, bottom, medium gangs, 10 people. Tier 0, small gangs, 5 people. Sable Phoenix says, I've never read the quick start. This seems like dropping you into the deep end. Status changes. When you execute a score, you gain -1 status with any factions that are hurt by your operation. You may also gain +1 status with a faction that your operation helps. If you keep your operation completely quiet, no one knows it was you, then your status doesn't change. If you take a mission by a faction, you gain +1 status with them when you complete it and -1 status with their enemies if the operation isn't quiet. NPC faction project clocks. Okay, so here's the clocks. NPC faction project clocks. You may also add or remove a segment on a faction's project clock when you perform a mission or pull off a score. Okay, wasn't a whole lot of info there. Gaining hold. Your crew generates hold primarily with development roles. See heat and development roles on page 28. You may also earn hold by striking a deal with a faction that involves them paying you 1 of their hold in exchange for some service or asset. 1 hold is generally worth 1 coin. So we also have coins here. NPC factions generate hold via downtime actions. They may also gain hold by striking deals and trading with another faction, reducing a faction's hold. You may perform an operation specifically to reduce the hold of another faction. A successful operation results in -2 hold. You may first have to gather information. A faction at 0 hold or less is vulnerable to a lower tier faction who wants to move up a tier. Faction statuses +3. This faction will help you even if it's not in their best interest to do so. Friendly, helpful, neutral, unfriendly, hostile. Okay, we need some dice. Okay, so rolling the dice. Okay, we're using 6-sided dice here. Okay, so these are action rolls. This seems like how to actually play here. So Blades in the Dark uses 6-sided dice. You roll several dice, several at once, and read the single highest result. If the highest die is 6, it is a full success. Things go well. If you roll multiple 6s, it's a critical success. If the highest is a 4 or a 5, that's a partial success. It's a mixed result, some good, some bad. If the result is 1 to 3, it's a bad outcome. Things go badly. If you ever need to roll, but you have 0 or negative dice, roll 2D and take the lowest roll. All right. Action ratings. There are 16 actions in the game system that the player characters use to overcome obstacles and face dangers. Each action has a rating from 0 to 4, which tells you how many dice to roll when you perform that action. Action ratings don't just represent skill or training. You're free to describe how your character performs the action based on the type of person they are. Maybe your character is good at command. Are these 16 actions? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 actions. Attune, cipher, command, consort, deceive, discern, feint, mayhem, murder, prowl, secure, stalk, stitch, supply, sway, and tinker. Maybe your character is good at command because they have a scary stillness to them, while another character barks orders and intimidates people with their imposing size. You may use any action to overcome an obstacle or danger. Actions that are very poorly suited to the situation will put the character in a more challenging position, but they can still be attempted. Even if something you're really good at, maybe it's worth it. You may use an action to overcome an obstacle or danger. Actions that are very poorly suited to the situation will put the character in a more challenging situation, but they can still be attempted. Okay, it's up to you which action your character performs to overcome a problem. Here's a bit of advice. If you think a combination of obstacle and action is silly, if you don't choose it, pick something else. You're responsible for the tone of the game. So you're always rolling one of these 16 to try to overcome an obstacle, like murder, murder and mayhem. I think I'll use some mayhem to overcome an obstacle. So an action roll. To make an action roll, when your character tries to do something that's blocked by an obstacle or when they're threatened by danger. An action roll answers 2 questions. How do you accomplish the action and how much trouble are you exposed to when doing this? The possible results are the roll depending on your character's position. The possible results of the roll depending on your character's position. There are 3 possible positions: desperate, risky, and controlled. If you're in a controlled position, most of the possible dice results are good. If you're in a desperate position, most of the results are bad. If you're somewhere in between, it's risky, and there's a mix of good and bad results. For the details on action rolls, see 11. So is that like what position your player is in? I've got to accomplish this, and I'm desperate. Versus I'm trying to accomplish this, and I'm in a controlled situation, so I was able to set up everything in an ideal way. Versus I'm in a risky situation, which is someplace in between. All right, we'll have to go and see. Let's just go down to page 11 and try to find out more about what the action roll is. Okay, here's progress clocks, but here's the action roll. Okay, action roll. Roll 1d for each action dot. DBJ says this game is heavy on yes, no, and or but. It's also the setting is also important, as DBJ alludes to. You are trapped inside the lighting walls. You can't just skip town when the heat starts rising. You have to deal with the consequences. And here you can see the bones of Powered by the Apocalypse. Those 16 actions are the same as moves in Powered by the Apocalypse games. Even the sway and wreck actions are the same names. Position and effect are just 2 of the genius mechanics. Okay, so that's it. Yes, most actions will be risky. That's kind of like being under pressure, I guess. Controlled, I guess, is when you're not under pressure. Risky is when you're under some kind of pressure, I guess. Desperate, I guess, is intense pressure. Okay, so let's see. Action roll. 1d for each action dot you've got. Plus 1d if the target matches your background. Plus 1d for the devil's bargain. I see that explained down below. Plus 1d for backup. They take stress. Negative 1d if you're hindered by any relevant lasting effects. Negative 1d if you face veteran, elite, or well-prepared opposition. Okay. So that's your basic rolls. I think that was up to 4, right? Plus 1d if the target matches your background. We're going to have to see what that means exactly. Okay, so desperate. You take a huge risk on a slim chance. You're stuck in a bad position. You face a threat that's out of your league. Crit, you do it and avoid the danger. 6, you do it, but face the effect of the danger. You do it, but face the effect of the danger. 4 or 5, things go badly. You face the effect of danger at hand. You must abandon this approach or try again by taking a bigger risk and rolling a desperate move. I'm already on desperate. You must abandon this approach or try again by taking a bigger risk and rolling a desperate move. 1 to 3, it gets worse. You face a more potent effect from the danger. -1 to your resist effect level. You must abandon this goal. You can't achieve it for now. Or try again by taking a bigger risk and rolling a desperate move. When risky, you face a dangerous opponent on equal footing. You act under fire. You take a calculated risk. Crit, you do it with increased effect, +1 effect result level. 6, you do it and avoid the danger. Or you may choose to overreach and get +1 effect level, but also face effect from the danger. 4 to 5, you do it, but face the effect of the danger. 1 to 3, things go badly. You face the effect of the danger at hand. You must abandon this approach. You'll have to try another way or try again by taking a bigger risk and rolling a desperate move. sort of makes over here controlled. We're moving down to desperate. Desperate moves down, or no, excuse me, controlled moves you down to risky if you got to try again. Risky moves you down to desperate. But it does say that you can still, but you got to take a bigger risk. So you can continue to try on desperate, I guess. Controlled, you take time to carefully execute a plan. You hedge your bets and play it safe. You exploit a dominant position. Crit, you do it with increased effects plus 1 level, and you may create an additional opportunity that follows on from this action. 6 is you do it. 4 or 5, you do it with reduced effect, -1 level, or try for full effect by taking a bigger risk and rolling a risky move. 1 to 3, you reveal a flaw in the approach that will expose you to danger. You may back out now, abandon this method or action, or go ahead by rolling a risky move. So the controlled, risky, and desperate are not modifiers. They're different tables for you to roll on. So you can. So Sable's saying you can chain desperate actions until your character dies if you want. So that's why. So it doesn't stop you after 1. So you can continue to act desperately. So when your PC pursues a goal that's blocked by an obstacle or exposes them to danger, you make an action roll. Choose your action. Tell the group which action your character is using to deal with the object or danger. It's usually obvious, but make it explicit anyway. There's some overlap among actions, meaning several of them might apply depending on your specific approach you take. The choice is yours as long as the character actually does the action in question. You can't roll murder unless you proceed with serious violence. Position and the desired effect. Assess the strength of the character's position to perform this action. There are 3 positions from worst to best: desperate, risky, and controlled. Look at the profiles for each position. Which of the various phrases best matches the character's current situation? Also consider the desired effect of the PCs and the possible effect of the threat they're facing. In general, the bigger desired effect, the bigger the risk. By revising their approach and desired effect, a player can modify their position. Discuss alternate goals, approaches, and effects how the PC's position might change as a result. Be explicit about what they'll accomplish and what they're risking, even if your risk is you don't know what will happen if you do that. Even if the risk is you don't know what's going to happen. The players need information to make good decisions about their actions. Once they're happy with the assessment, assemble the dice pool for the roll. The devil's bargain. All right, what is that? The PCs and Blades are reckless scoundrels addicted to destructive vices. They don't always act in their own best interest. To reflect this, the GM or other players can offer you a bonus die if you accept a devil's bargain. Take some action or exploit some advantage which helps you now, but works against your overall well-being, security, or future plans. Common devil's bargains include revealing a valuable secret for a momentary edge, sacrificing coin, an item, or crew asset, suffering stress or a lasting effect, betraying a teammate, friend, or loved one, angering a powerful enemy, making a dangerous promise, adding heat to the crew with evidence or witness. There isn't a devil's bargain in every situation. If one doesn't occur to anyone right away, that's fine. The devil's bargain occurs regardless of the outcome of the roll. You make the deal, get the bonus die, and pay the price. All right, let's go back up. Okay, so that was action rolls. That tells us what the action roll is. Yeah, we were playing Xanadu and having wild turkey last night. Lynn says the probabilities of success or failure with this mechanic are not as intuitive as they are with D20 or 2D6 or 3D6. Personally, I would crunch the numbers and make a table for a better feel. Sable says you tell the GM what you want to do, and the GM tells you whether you're controlled, risky, or desperate based on the narrative situation. the game is crunchy, but the pillars that are built on are heavily leaning in the direction, narrative leg of the GSN model. Dungeon Master. We should arrange a live stream play of one of these games with Heath as the GM. Well, make sure you're signed up. That's what so we can arrange some games. I'll put the link again here. You know, I was just sitting here thinking that, hey, we never did our breathe and sip. I got talking about other things. Got some Mountain Dew Zero this morning. I mean, other people can GM things too. All right, so let's go ahead and breathe and sip. Yep. Thank you for the reminder. Here we go. We've got our got your drink this morning. Do it with me here. All right, let's do 2 deep breaths, deep inhales, complete exhales, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage this morning. So here we go. And sip. Here we go. There we go. Much better. I knew something was missing this morning. Now everything is right with the universe. Okay, so we also have effect ratings here. There are 6 effects in the game, which are used to determine how much impact an action has on the situation. Each effect has a rating from 0 to 4, which tells you how many dice to roll when you apply that effect. For example, when you stalk a target, you use your insight rating to find out how much you learn about them. So stalk over here is one of our actions. Yes. We also have an effect rating. Oh, so our effects are force, finesse, influence, insight, maneuver, and will. So we have 6 effects, which we will use to determine how much impact an action has on the situation. Effects are also resistances. Your effect ratings will also indicate how well your character can resist those effects. If you get stabbed, you resist with your force rating. If someone tricks you into a clever ploy, you resist with insight. When you encounter a terrifying spirit, you will resist with will, and so on. The better your roll, the more easily you can avoid a bad effect by taking stress. So these are all our resistances. We can resist with force, with finesse, with influence, with insight, with maneuver, or will. Okay, I have to think about that. The universe, does that cover everything? And how that covers everything that could happen to you. So an effect roll. You make an effect roll to find out the scope of your character's action. Is this action enough to overcome the obstacle or defeat the threat? Or is there more left to do? An effect roll answers this question. What's the scope of my action? So that's just 2 rolls. So your effect rating, yeah, it does tell you each effect has a rating 0 to 4, which tells you how many dice to roll when you apply the effect. So is that like damage? So you've got, you're going to do 2 rolls. You're going to do an action roll, and then also an effect roll. In general, the full success on an effect roll means that your action has overcome the problem. Lesser rolls means that you make job progress, but you will have to attempt more actions to finish the job. Wait, let me go back down here to where it's talking here, this right here. So this is when it's talking about, oh yeah, so this is an effect. You do it with increased effect plus 1 level. So that's what that effect is. We hadn't really read what that was at this time. So if you crit in a controlled situation, you get plus 1 level. So you're going to roll an extra effect die, I guess. We do this with an increased effect down here. Here we do it with reduced effect, -1 per level. So it does seem like there's going to be a second roll. The resistance roll. When you resist a bad effect, your effect roll tells you how much stress it will cost you to avoid the bad outcome. The better your roll, the less stress it costs. You can choose to suffer the effect and save your stress, or you can choose to suffer the effect and save your stress. For the details on effect rolls, go to page 12. Okay, let's go down to see some details on that. The effect roll. Talking about dice probabilities in the chat here. Position and effect are not a table, and they don't dictate the size of your pool either. Okay, so the effect roll here. There are two cases when a player makes an effect roll to determine the scope of their character's action to resist a negative effect from a threat. We'll go over both here. Determine the scope of your action. In Blades in the Dark, you overcome obstacles and face dangers by making action rolls. But how many action rolls does it take to deal with a particular problem? You're not sure. If you're not sure, make an effect roll to find out. If you played other role-playing games, you're probably familiar with the system where you make a roll to attack in combat, then do a follow-up roll for damage. Okay, so we were just talking about that. The result of the damage tells you if you defeated the target or if they still have hit points left, so you'll need to attack them again. This system is similar, but it applies to all kinds of actions and effects, not just attacks and damage. Oh, we've talked about that when we were talking about game design. That is talking about how one of the things you could do with the universal mechanic, if you've got combat and attack roll and damage, if you're trying to do a universal action resolution mechanic, one thing you could do is you could move hit points to a whole bunch of other situations, which Index Card RPG does. Lots of different things will have hit points if you're trying to figure out whether or not you've got to overcome it. Like if you're trying to pick a lock under pressure, you're going to roll basically against the lock's hit points in order to see, how long it's going to take you in order to open that lock if the seconds matter, which I actually do like as a mechanic. So this is doing something similar here. We're abstracting this roll to hit and then roll for damage system to more situations. This system is similar, but applies to all kinds of actions and effects, not just to attacks and damage. The default case is an obstacle which has 4 segments of scope. See the top right that shows how much effect you have. See the table top right that shows how much effect you have and how many segments of progress it's worth. Okay, we'll look at that in just a moment. When a player rolls for effect and gets a 6+, they overcome a 4-segment obstacle. This is the standard case, so you don't need to draw a 4-segment clock for every obstacle. Just keep it in mind. If a player rolls less effect, 1 or 2 segments, then maybe draw a clock real quick, fill in 1 or 2 parts, and then describe how the effect manifests without overcoming the obstacle. Ask them what they want to do next. Lesser obstacles, a modest lock, a trusting mark, a weakened enemy, have smaller clocks. 3 segments or 2-segment clocks are fine. If you imagine a 1-segment obstacle, that's the sign that you don't need to roll for effect at all. They just overcome it. Very involved obstacles, a series of guard patrols, a complex lock, a suspicious mark, a veteran fighter call for bigger clocks. 8-segment or 12-segment clocks are good. For 12-segment, I usually draw 2 6-segment clocks. It's just faster to me. The vast majority of obstacles should be 4 segments. Use smaller or larger clocks when you want to highlight something remarkable or when players do something the hard way. For example, if the player's goal is I shove him back and run away down the stairs, that might be a 4-segment obstacle. If they say I slip past his defense, kill him, and then run down the stairs, that might be a 6-segment clock or more. Tell the players what they're thinking about the scope of the obstacle and talk about their goal so it's clear they can revise as needed. So the effect roll. 1D for every effect diamond. I guess that's on our effect sheet. Plus 1D if you have a fine item. Plus 1D for the devil's bargain. Plus D for backup. They take stress. Negative 1D if your opposition is especially potent in this effect category. So if you roll critical, which is 2 or more 6s, if your effect is extreme beyond what you would expect given the situation, your effect is extreme beyond what we would what we would expect given the situation. 6 segments, no stress. So that allows you to complete 6 segments, up to 6 segments. And you take 0 stress. Your effect is complete. It's what you would expect given the situation. So you're able to accomplish 4 segments and also take 1 stress, I guess. 4 to 5, your effect is partial, blunted, diffused, or incomplete. You accomplish 2 segments, but you have to accept 2 stress. Your effect is diminished, but that we would expect 1 segment for 4 stress. Resist a negative effect. Good morning, James. When you resist a negative effect from a threat, you roll 1 of your effect ratings to see how much stress it will cost to avoid the effect. Oh, maybe this is the effect roll. So maybe this is like how much you can avoid. Maybe this is damage avoided when you're rolling to resist a negative effect. When you resist a negative effect from a threat, you roll 1 of your effect ratings to find out how much stress it will cost you to avoid the effect. This is always optional. You don't have to take stress. You can suffer the effect instead. Sometimes this is a good idea, especially if you expect to face worse things soon. Your character's remaining stress boxes indicate how much trouble they can avoid. When you're maxed out on stress, you can't wriggle out of bad outcomes anymore unless you take trauma. If you played other RPGs, you can think of stress as your hit points, but you get to decide how to spend them. NPCs can't take stress. They just suffer whatever effect level you rolled against them. Things may be tough for your fledgling crew, but at least you have a safety net and your enemies don't. Armor. If you have a type of armor that applies to a situation, you can mark 1 armor box to avoid a negative effect instead of taking stress. If your armor is restored when you have downtime. If an NPC has armor, they usually take -1. You'll usually take -1 penalty to your effect roll. So asymmetry between what's going on here. Lasting effects. A lasting effect persists beyond the current situation. Physical injuries produce obviously lasting effects, but also social influence, fatigue, arcane events, etc. They also have long-term effects. When a PC suffers a lasting effect, they make note of it on an index card along with a recovery clock. Most lasting effects should be 6 or 8 segment clocks. So like broken leg over here with a 8 segment clock, most lasting effects should be 6 or 8 segment clocks. If a lasting effect hinders a character's action, they take -1 penalty to the action roll. If multiple lasting effects apply to the action, take -2 D penalty. When a PC inflicts a lasting effect on an NPC, put it on an index card for future reference. It can be used as leverage until the target takes time and effort to recover from it. Generally, an NPC recovers 1 segment each time the PCs have downtime, unless a PC does something to maintain the effect. Okay, retroactive effect. Sometimes you'll realize that you need to establish an effect's magnitude after the fact. This is okay. You can make the roll to determine what exactly happened in the past. You threw your opponent down the stairs, but didn't bother to roll effect. Later, you meet up with your team, and the GM says, as you're giving the package to Boxer, the thug from before shows up, and you say, whoa, hang on, I threw him down the flight of stairs. He could have a broken neck. Oh, yeah, good point. Roll for effect to see how bad the fall was on him. We've got an example of play. I think we need one. Okay, so that was okay. So we just looked at resistance rolls. Now we have stress and trauma. Player characters in Blades in the Dark have a special reserve of fortitude and luck called stress. When they suffer an effect, I mean, how are you guys feeling? If you haven't played this, how are you feeling about this so far? Interesting? Something you'd play? Something you want to try out? Or is it something you would avoid? Let me know in the comments. It's very different. So I see why people talk about why we need to go over this one. Player characters in Blades in the Dark have a special reserve of fortitude and luck called stress. See, I thought that this was based on, you say this is more like Powered by the Apocalypse. I mean, some parts of it all sound like, the clocks are in here. I thought there were more Fate-like elements in this. I mean, there are some Fate-like elements. So it's very different, even compared to the playing Powered by the Apocalypse games that was spawned by. Yes, I play with the right table. It's not for everyone. Well, that's true. That's true about many games. If it's the right table, there are lots of games that can be played and enjoyed. DBJ says being proactive is encouraged. Reacting only helps survive. Proactivity can earn ticks off a clock. Both have consequences of stress or trauma. Lynn says he might give it a go. Okay, so the result. Okay, so when they suffer effect that they don't want to accept, they can take stress instead to avoid the effect entirely. That's like your choice about how to use them. The result of the effect roll determines how much stress it costs to avoid. Daniel's character, Cross, is losing a fight with an assassin sent by the unseen. The GM describes how the assassin slips past Cross's defenses and puts a dagger through his eye. Yikes. Daniel rolls his force to resist, gets a 1 to 3, a diminished result. He can take 4 stress or a knife to the eye, his choice. Well, probably want to take the 4 stress. Trauma. When a PC marks their 8th and final stress box, they suffer a level of trauma. When you mark a level of trauma, clear all of your stress, resetting to 0. You can also improve your Vice rating by 1. This is the only way Vice rating advances. You may choose to be left for dead or otherwise dropped out of the current conflict, only to show back up later shaken and drained. Trauma levels are permanent. Trauma represents how worn down your character is. When you mark your 4th trauma box, your character cannot continue as a daring scoundrel. You must retire them to a different life at your first opportunity. So retirement. When you fill your last trauma box and retire, the amount of coin you've managed to stash away determines the fate of your character. Stashed 0 to 10, poor soul. You end up in a reeking flop house, awash in vice and misery. 11 to 20, meager. You end up with a tiny but warm hovel that you call your own. Stashed 21 to 39, modest. You end up with a simple home or apartment with some small comforts. You might operate a tavern or some small business. Stash 40, fine. You end up with a well-appointed home or apartment claiming a few luxuries. You might operate a medium business or several small ones. Oh, stress, supernatural, and ghosts here. It's a close encounter, stress and the supernatural. A close encounter with a spirit or demon is a harrowing experience. By default, so it doesn't sound like you die. It sounds like you're taking this trauma and then eventually retire. So retirement is kind of like death, that you figure out how you exit the game. A close encounter with a spirit or demon is a harrowing experience. By default, the standard effect is to first freeze a person in place with fear and then panic them into fleeing from its presence. A PC can choose to take stress as normal to resist these effects. Exceptional NPCs such as railjacks and occult weirdos are more resistant to the supernatural terror of spirits, but it still takes its toll eventually. Being possessed by a spirit inflicts a level of trauma at the end of every week. Once the possessed body suffers its 4th level of trauma, it can no longer sustain its life. The possessing spirit must either bond with the corpse, becoming a vampire, or abandon it and seek out a new host. So ghost qualities: roll 1d, add +1 to each year of ghostly existence. Jealous, desperate, violent, hysterical, skittish, fleeting, curious. So I think these are going to be like fate aspects. It kind of seems like. Sable says, once you've shifted your thinking out of the binary roll to succeed mindset, this game feels like it would just flow like butter. It's so elegant. I love it. Well, maybe you could host one, a game to play, Sable, and let people try it out. The issue. I mean, my issue always with like the roll to succeed stuff, or the partial success, is adjudicating partial success. Like, how much do you have to adjudicate that at the table? This is, but this does have the clocks and things like that. So you have something concrete for your partial success. Teamwork. When the team of PCs engages in an operation together, the GM asks the group who's on point. One of the players chooses to put their character in the point role. The character on point leads the action of the team. They go first and make decisions about how to deal with obstacles. They're also the first to face any harm or trouble that comes their way. All of the PCs on the team are backup for the character on point. The backup characters are following their lead, on the lookout for danger, ready to step in and help. The point and backup roles shift as the team takes action. During the course of an operation, each PC is likely to have a turn in both roles. There's no official team leader as far as the game is concerned. Okay, the other PC on the team are backup for the character. The other PCs are backup. We did talk about backup. I've seen backup on that list that gives you an extra die or something, right? Sable says this game has a lot of creative overhead for the GM. You have to be good at improv and thinking on your feet. Moves on point. When you're on point, in addition to normal actions and roles, you have access to 3 special moves. Lead a group action, overcome an obstacle or danger for the whole team, set up a character who follows on your action. If you perform any special move on point, you become backup and somebody else takes point. The special moves are detailed below. On point, lead a group action. When you lead a group action, you coordinate multiple members of the team to tackle a problem together. Describe how your character leads the team in a coordinated effort. Do you bark orders, give subtle hand signals, or provide charismatic inspiration? The PCs involved for the action and the team count the single best result. The PCs who's involved for the roles for the action and the team counts the single best result, the overall effect for everyone. However, the character leading the group takes 1 stress for each character that rolled a 1 to 3 result. This is how you do the everyone sneaks into the manor situation. Everyone rolls their prowl action, and the best result counts for the whole team. But the player on point suffers stress for everyone who's done poorly. It's tough covering for the stragglers. I like that. It's that when trying to make a group check, it's always important to know, if one person fails, do you all fail, or does one person succeed? If one person succeeds, do you all succeed? So this is use your best. One person makes it, they've got it. Sable says, this is not an easy game to learn or GM. I've spent a lot of time reading the core book, and I'm still not sure I know how to run it successfully. I think it's a play to learn situation. A lot of them are. Or at least probably best learned by playing. Preferably with somebody who already knows how to play. The group action may extend to the effect roll if you wish. Everyone may roll for effect and take the best result, but stress applies again for 1 to 3 results. Otherwise, the leader rolls for effect. Otherwise, only the leader rolls for effect. The group action move is good when none of your team members are experts in a given action and can all contribute to perform the performance of the team. Okay, on point, overcome. When you overcome an obstacle or danger the whole team is facing, you can solve a problem for everyone, but risk stressing out your teammates. Roll your action as normal, but if your result is less than 6, each member of the team suffers 1 stress. So when you overcome an obstacle or danger, if you're on point, and you overcome an obstacle or danger the whole team is facing, you can solve a problem for everyone, but you risk stressing everybody out. It's stressful to watch a teammate do less than perfectly on an action that will affect everyone. This stress happens on the initial roll only, not on the follow-up rolls. The result of the point player's role applies to everyone on the team. This is how you do the I'll lure the guard away situation. The point character rolls their sway action, and the result covers for everyone to gain access to the manor. Okay. Stray says, most games I've seen ended up more like an Ocean's 11 movie. Which is cool. I do love Ocean's 11. Lynn says, I like the fact that it breaks the usual mold. I see very little here that is inspired by D&D, which casts a very long shadow over the entire tabletop RPG space. Sable says, yeah, Blades in the Dark is great at solving a lot of the problems that crop up in 5e and similar games. Group checks is one elegant example. Yeah, group checks I think are not great in D&D. The overcome move is good when you have an expert on the team with a high action rating to deal with a particular problem. On point, setup. When you perform a setup action, you do something that marks one of your teammates as more effective. So you're setting them up for success. If your action success, you add your effect die to the effect roll of the teammate who next takes point and follows through on your setup. See backup follow through. Moves as a backup. When you're backup, in addition to normal actions and rolls, you have access to 3 special teamwork moves. Face an effect in place of the character on point. Assist another character on the team. Follow through on a setup action. Backup, face an effect. When you face an effect in place of the character on the team on point, you roll to resist the effect instead of them. You may spend stress to avoid the result as normal. Describe how you intervene and face the effect meant for them. Backup, assist. When you assist another character, take 1 stress to give them 1 bonus die to the roll. Only 1 teammate can assist a given roll. Describe how your character assists. That's that. So that's the backup. 1 die, they take a bonus. Take a stress, but you get the bonus die. Follow through. When you follow through on an action set up by the character on point, you become the character on point. You add their effect die to the effect roll for your next action. Your next action may include a special point move like overcome. Do we have to use teamwork? Teamwork moves are options, not requirements. Each character can still perform solo actions during the operation. You can sway that guard with your charm to gain access to the manor without using the overcome move, leaving the rest of your team to figure out their own way inside. If your character can't communicate or somehow coordinate with the rest of the team, you can't benefit from any teamwork moves. Teamwork summary. Moves on point. Lead a group action. Overcome a group problem. Set up another character. Moves as backup. Face an effect for the character on point. Assist another character. Follow through with the setup action. Changing roles. You become backup after you use any special move on point. You can take point when you follow through as a backup. You can't freely shuffle between roles. Okay, that's interesting. You can't freely shuffle people between roles. If the wrong person is on point, 2 characters can swap if one of them takes 1 stress. Smoothly shifting to the point roll around the team is a mini game that requires actual teamwork among the players. You won't always get it just right. That's the nature of teamwork. So also discouraging optimal play. See you later, Lynn. All right, progress clocks. Everybody likes progress clocks. Okay, progress clocks. Use a progress clock for a goal that takes several actions to resolve. Sneaking into the Blue Coat Watchtower, start a clock for the security coverage of the patrols. When the PCs fill their clock with the effect rolls, they've overcome the patrols outside. Generally, the more complex the goal or problem, the more segments in a progress clock. An effect roll is used to tick segments on a clock. Each effect result level indicates how many segments to tick. Also, effort spent during downtime can tick a clock representing a long-term project. The GM can use a progress clock to represent a countdown threat, like reinforcements that are on the way, or the time it takes to get into for the burning building to collapse. When a PC takes an action, the GM fills a segment of the countdown clock. When a clock is full, the time-based threat manifests. The GM has the option to include the advancement of a countdown as a danger on a roll. So if the PC rolls a 4 to 5 on a risky move, for instance, the clock counts down, but on a 6+, they do their action quickly enough so no countdown occurs. When the clock is full, the time-based threat manifests. Okay, mission clocks. The GM might make a special countdown clock for a time-sensitive mission to represent the window of opportunity you have to complete the mission. If the countdown runs out, the mission is scrubbed. The target escapes or another crew completes it first, etc. A mission clock might tick down 1 segment per hour, per day, per week, depending on its nature. Okay, so we're using these in different ways. Progress clocks. So these are all different kinds of clocks. Progress clocks, that's basically like the hit points coming in. countdown clocks, something's going to happen at the end of this, and mission clocks. So this is using time in the game. I'm big on using time in the game. So something counting down to happen, also counting down. Recovery clocks, when a PC suffers a lasting effect like an injury, it has a progress clock associated with it, representing the time needed to recover. The more serious the effect, the bigger the clock. During downtime, you can receive aid to recover. Long-term project clocks. Hey, Vincent. Yes, this is Blades in the Dark. First time read through. Yep. No, I don't. I'm figuring it out. Yeah, I'm figuring it out for the first time. This is the quick start guide. So everybody talks about this one quite a bit. So we are going in. Clocks are not actually an abstraction of time, Sable says. They are an abstraction of effort, effect over time. Okay. Well, okay, so an abstraction of effort and effect over time. So that means I can see that clearly with the progress clocks. But here, like this countdown clock, it's saying, okay, let's look at the countdown clock again with that in mind. So the GM can use a progress clock to represent a countdown threat like reinforcements that are on the way, or time it takes the burning building to collapse. When a PC takes an action, the GM fills a segment on the countdown clock. When the clock is full, the time-based threat manifests. The GM also has the option to include the advancement of a countdown as a danger on a roll. So if a PC rolls a 4 to 5 on a risky move, for instance, the clock counts down. But on a 6+, they do their action quickly enough so that you don't have to count down. So GM option here. Some projects take a long time. A basic long-term project clock, like tinkering up a feature for a device, has 8 segments. Truly long-term segments, like creating a new design or drug, should be broken up into several phases, each with its own clock. The phases are generally figure out how to do it, muster the resources and test things out, and then complete the project. Add or subtract phases depending on the details, the situation, and the complexity of the project. Tug of war clock. You can set up a clock that can filled and empty, representing a back and forth situation. For example, you might make a revolution clock that indicates when the refugee Skulllanders in the city start to riot over the annexation. Some events will tick the clock up and will start to click down. Once it fills, the revolution begins. A tug of war clock is perfect for an ongoing turf war between 2 crews or factions. Linked clocks. You can make a clock that unlocks another clock once it's filled. In the revolution example above, the GM might make a countdown clock called Imperial Troops Arrive when the revolution clock fills up. A multi-phase long-term project is essentially a set of linked clocks. Faction clocks. Vincent says, I personally love clocks, and having those sitting at the table really can add to the game. They're basically like having a delayed effect. Sable says, I think clocks were something created all the way back in old school D&D, and they were revived by Apocalypse World, but nobody integrated them so tightly into the core system until Blades in the Dark. Vincent says, in Powered by the Apocalypse games, you often have the problem that you have to have consequences for every roll. But with clocks, you can have a consequence for multiple rolls. Sable says, right. And depending on your position or effect, you can roll a crit. You might fill in even more than one clock segment. Right, so going off this, consequence for multiple rolls, and you can use these for all kinds of things, even a simple conversation. You could add mob boss patience clock to see how long you have until he kicks you out. They're a fantastic, elegant tool, too. But I'm still also seeing similarity to the hearts in Index Card RPG. Vincent says, I already GM'd Blades a couple of times. It certainly is a great game, but it's not for everyone. A lot of classic players of D&D and similar games often have a hard time wrapping their heads around it. Okay, so a faction clock. Each faction has a long-term goal they're working on when the game begins. When the PCs take downtime, page 20, the GM ticks forward the faction clock they're interested in. This way, the world around the PCs is dynamic and things happen that they're not directly connected to, changing the overall situation of the city and creating new opportunities and challenges. PCs may also directly affect NPC faction clocks based on the missions and scores they pull off. Talk to them about known faction projects and they might aid or interfere with. And also consider how a PC operation might affect the PC clocks, whether the PCs intended it or not. Campaign countdown. In the full version of the game, the GM has several campaign countdowns that represent the unstable situation in the city. When one of the NPC factions fills their project clock, the GM advances the campaign countdown clocks. When a campaign clock is full, a campaign event occurs. This is one of the systems the GM uses to make the city of Duskwall come alive as a dynamic backdrop for the game. For this quick start, you won't need campaign countdowns unless you play a whole lot. If you do, by that point, I bet you'll have all sorts of ideas for campaign countdowns of your own design. Share them with the G+ community for others to use too. Information and planning. Let's see. We got... okay. So now here's the flashbacks. Okay, so we do need... Look at this. The action roll. Then we're back around to the action roll, then the effect roll, and then an example of play. How to use this system, part 1. Putting it all together, advancements and coin. Downtime, goals, principles, and actions, best practices, GM techniques and bad habits. Starting the game. Okay, there's a lot here. Okay, let's go back to planning. Whoop. Progress clocks. Okay, information and planning. The flow of information from the GM to the players about the fictional world is very important in a role-playing game. Well, let's see. Oh, Vincent says, I'm usually hanging out at DBJ's stream. Oh, I found you through the Heroine's Labyrinth videos. Oh, fantastic. Right, yes. So that's, I hope you've been enjoying the Heroine's Labyrinth videos. Sable says, that's a good equivalent, actually, Heath, but hearts are always counting down to 0 and are always visible to the players. Clocks can increase or decrease and may be hidden. Faction clocks are basically like a macro. So, I mean, yeah, it's an expanded version of the hearts. Faction clocks are basically like a macro game between factions. This is something GM can almost play with himself. Inspired a bit by Stars Without Numbers. Great for sandbox-style games. Blades in the Dark is a dense game. Yes, not a lot of fluff, but tons of helpful tools. It's incredibly elegant, but it also ain't easy. Okay. Characters can perform a special move called Gather Information. I'm going to go a little bit faster here. When your character gathers information, you ask the GM about the fictional world. A list of sample questions is provided on the character sheet, but you can ask questions related to the situation at hand. If the act of gathering the information is blocked by an obstacle or exposes your character to danger, how much you must make an action roll as normal. If there's a question of how much information can be gathered, then you roll for effect. Okay, planning. Your crew spends time planning each score. They huddle around a flickering lantern in their lair, looking at scrawled maps, whispering plots and schemes, bickering about the best approach, lamenting the dangers ahead, and lusting after stacks of coin. But you, the players, don't have to do the nitty-gritty planning. the characters can take that off screen. All they have to do is choose what type of plan the characters already have made. That's right. The planning phase is over as soon as you start it. Just choose to go. Just choose and go. So wait, so the characters can take care of, all you have to do is choose what type of plan the characters have already made. That's right. The planning phase is over as soon as you start it. Just choose and go. There are 5 different types of plans, each with a missing detail you need to provide. To plan an operation, simply choose the plan and supply the detail. Then cut to the action as the first moments of the operation unfold at the target location. When you choose a plan, the GM will ask you to provide a missing detail, like the point of attack or the social connection, etc. If you don't know the detail, you can scout it out by gathering information. Some groups of players naturally fall into a creative mode when the GM asks about the detail. They invent something interesting and supply the detail from their imagination at the moment. This is fun, but be aware that inventing details this way makes scouting actions irrelevant. If you don't want scouting and casing targets to be the focus of play, go ahead and simply invent the details off the cuff. Otherwise, try to refrain from doing this. If your characters don't already know the details, say so and follow up with gather information actions to discover it, or play with a mix of approaches. The 5 plans: the assault plan, you intend to do violence to a target. Detail the plan of attack. Deception plan, you intend to lure, trick, or manipulate. Detail the method of deception. Infiltrate plan, you intend to trespass unseen where you are not welcome. Detail the entry point of infiltration. Occult plan, you intend to confront or exploit a supernatural power. Detail the arcane power you will employ. Social plan, you intend to negotiate, bargain, or persuade. Detail the social connection you're using. Linked plans, a common scenario is a team that wants to attempt a 2-pronged approach. You create a diversion at the tavern the Dimmer sisters own, and when they send their thugs over there, we will break into their house. There are 2 ways to handle this. The diversion is a setup action that the team member performs as part of the infiltration plan. If the diversion succeeds, the next teammate who follows up will get increased effect dice. If it makes sense, any team member who performs the setup action can drift back into the main operation and join the team again so they don't have to sit around and wait. 2, the diversion is its own operation linked to a future infiltration plan. You play it out as a full series of team actions with the end goal being there are no guards at the house when we infiltrate it later. Either option is fine. It's a question of interest. Is the diversion interesting enough on its own to play out moment by moment? If so, make it a full operation. If not, simplify it to a setup action as part of the main plan. So, flashbacks. Vincent says, I love the random tables. They paint the picture of the world much more condensed than just fluff stories. They show you what's normal in the world. Hey, Trey. I wouldn't know neither. Glad to have you tuning in. So DVJ says, an untitled clock can foreshadow dangers. I used this once to entice the PCs to investigate the problem. If somebody here who's GM'd this before wouldn't mind hosting an online game, I'd love to play it so I can learn firsthand how to GM it myself. If that's something that you're interested in, I'll put the link to the online gaming sign up again. So if you're interested in playing online, I've got an interest link there so we know who's interested in playing. Yeah, so yes, you do not plan as PCs. You start the heist in media res. In men's in the middle of the action. let's see. Okay, so the flashback. So this is important, right? The rule. So yeah, you're beginning. You plan. You pick one of these plans, and then you go into the action. And the rules for actions and effects don't distinguish between actions performed in the present moment and those performed in the past. When an operation is underway, you can invoke a flashback scene to roll for an action in the past, which impacts your current situation. Maybe you bribed the district watch sergeant to not patrol here tonight, so you make a supply roll to see if that worked. The GM sets a stress cost when you activate a flashback action. 0 stress for a normal action for which you had an easy opportunity. The cutter consorted with his friend Chal to ask him to arrive at the dice game ahead of time to suddenly spring up as a surprise ally. 1 stress for a complex action or an unlikely opportunity. The hound arranged to feint her pistols under the table ahead of time so she could retrieve them after the pat down at the door. 2 stress for an elaborate action which involves several special opportunities or contingencies. The Whisperer has already attuned to the ghost of the former proprietor to divine the secret of the hidden safe. So that's talking about that planning something. So, okay, you were pat down at the door, but hey, I really want my pistols. What if I do a flashback to something that happened in the past? And now we are back around to the action roll. DBJ says the creative load is explaining why you didn't get what you wanted. It's not just failure, but what a circumstance or consequences suffer due to the lack of success. Trey says, I'm going to share one of my favorite videos about this game in the other RPG section of Discord with the threads on the how-tos. Okay, please do. I'll watch it today. Okay, so we looked at actions and effects. And then so I think we should probably return to this system. So there's some more stuff to look at here. Maybe tomorrow, maybe not. But it seems like we need to take another look at this because this is very different. It is dense and different. I like it. It's very interesting. So I'm glad we did look at it. Wasn't there something about how this handles? I mean, it's probably more in the actual set, like how this handles equipment and things like that people really liked, because you just like choose how well outfitted you are. I'm gonna have to go into this in greater detail, so we'll return to this, I believe, on another morning grind. Yeah, Vincent says, yeah, in Blades, it's usually not due to the PC's lack of skill or preparation that you fail. It's because you deal with overwhelming forces or numbers. A flashback is just a reframed skill check. The setting, read the setting. Not only is Doskaval a pressure cooker with the lightning walls you can't leave, but they also have mystic alarm bells that ring when somebody dies unexpectedly anywhere in the city and dispatch enchanted ravens to track down the location so the government can send their people to collect the body before the ghost rises. So you can't just murder hobo your way around through a heist. Interesting. Does Anon, speaking of that, what if anything in this game helps you with the creative load? Yeah, the assassins have a faction ability that just prevents the clock from ringing. That's all it does, and that's awesome. Super well integrated ability. The good news is that if you understand this one, you understand how all the Forged in the Dark games work. Okay, yeah, so like Powered by the Apocalypse is based off of an apocalypse world, right? So if you're playing something that's Forged in the Dark, then you're playing a game that's based off of this system, right? Because I was not familiar with Forest in the Dark, this at all. So Forest in the Dark. So this is a good introduction to it. All right. I am going to work on our online gaming. So, and do a few things and maybe even start putting together a schedule. So if you're interested, please do sign up. I noticed that this morning we had 11 people signed up. Now, just because people are interested doesn't mean they will, are interested in playing any particular game and stuff like that. We've got 11 people, but at least that will give us a time to actually do some more testing of scheduling and software and things like that for play before there are greater numbers. So we will see. I'm going to get to work on that. So everybody have a wonderful day. Be creative, be constructive, and grind on. I'll see you in the morning. Yes, please do check the Discord. Thank you, Stray. Later, everybody.